Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. For this video tutorial, I'm going back to my Q&A list of questions I've been sent. And the question that was asked, actually it's not a question, it's a statement. I'm having trouble using metal things in mixed media. I end up making things look too busy. Can you help? Well, of course I can help. So in this particular lesson, I'm going to be focusing on the focal point will be a metal piece and everything else will just be layers of other stuff. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to be using. So I ordered these off of Amazon. I absolutely love all these pieces. They're brass and the dragonfly really popped out at me. And when I looked at the dragonfly, I was picturing things happening when we were out on walks pre-pandemic. And I was always looking for these dragonflies. Like I saw a few and I was always looking for them. Then when I was going through my stash looking for my quotes, this one was at the very top and thought, I'm going to use that. And this is just one of the, what are these? These are, I don't know where I get, that's a Tim Holtz thing, I think. But it doesn't matter because you can print this off on your computer or your printer or just handwrite it or stamp, so it doesn't matter. I have a piece already made up because of the drying time that I'm going to show you after I've done all this. So what I've got for supplies is I've got the chalky gesso from DecoArt. I've got the DecoArt medium, matte medium, and I've got the white crackle paste, and I've got some metallics. I've got rose gold for the matte metallic, and then the dazzling metallic festive green. I was going to use copper, but I wanted a shiny matte finish in the back. We'll see if that's going to work. And then to vintage up the edges, carbon black and phthalo blue, because I want it to be opaque and not transparent. I've took a cosmetic sponge and I ripped up the edges. I've got my palette knife and my baking sheet. So the idea, what I was thinking of is you know what, I did this and I won't be able to replicate it, but this is absolutely perfect, except I don't have the dictionary paper on there, and this is really thin, so it's not going to hold this metal piece. I've been guilty of this as well, using a whole bunch of metal components in it that just don't seem to work. For example, I've got all these metal pieces here, and I ended up buying these metal gears and cogs, and I love these so much. And you can easily overdo a design. I've got clock pieces and all this stuff, and you know, I love the look of steampunk and that, but sometimes when you overdo something, it just doesn't seem to work. So we're going to simplify it, one metal piece, and this is going to be the focal point. So when you look at your focal point, you think of what do you want the person to look at. So I'm going to be using this dragonfly and then going to be putting the word here. So that's one way to simplify your metal embellishments, is just focus on one to start. And because this is so flimsy, I'm going to end up making another one. And this is 300-pound watercolor paper. You can use cardboard. You can use the backing off palette paper. Like this one is perfect. It's super thick, but you can use anything you want. Okay, and you can make it any size you want. I'm just doing it small because I love working with artist trading card size, which is 2.5 by 3.5. And the watercolor paper has this ripped up edge. You can use a knife, or you can use tools like this to scrape up the edges. You can do it with a knife. Do I have a knife? Joe went out and took me out so I can use the knife. But you can use an X-Acto knife and just, which is basically the same thing here, because all this is almost like a razor blade. Health and safety, it's your responsibility for how you use this. Okay, but this does the same. This is a little safer. Let's tear that up. I think my theme for 2021 is going to be vintage. Maybe should I start up my dark side of vintage project again? I didn't do a lot with that one, but along with the book of backgrounds. Okay, I'm going to put this away because I am going to cut myself And sorry for the clinging. All right, let's get this out of the way. So, and this really I should have done at the end. But, so we have that card. All right, the first thing we want to do, when we have raw paper, might as well do this as skill building as well. When we have raw paper, we need to prime the paper so stuff sticks to it. If we just put paint on this, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, it's going to sink into the watercolor paper and the paint won't be as vibrant because it's going to sink into the paper. Think of ladies when you put eyeshadow on, sometimes you put a primer on your eyes first, then you put your eyeshadow to make it pop. And think of the gesso as your primer. And I'm going to be using, oh no. Oh, I'm going to be using the chalky gesso for that. And the plastic that I had on this, I forgot to put it back on. Oh man. I think I'm going to get a smaller container, or when these are empty, I'm going to put the chalky gesso in that. I don't think DecoArt makes these in smaller sizes. This is a much more economical container. All right, so let's brushy brush. It's nice and thick. I love the chalk. Oh, you know, I did the wrong side, so that's fine. Just splattered gesso everywhere. Good Lord. I love the chalky gesso just from the feel of it. It's that nice soft look, and whatever's on there is not water, is not permanent because it's dissolving. So I'm just putting the gesso on here. There we go. And you know what? Let's just work on that side. So now this gesso is completely covering the paper. So now when we put the paint on or whatever, it's going to be more vibrant. And if you want it to be in pure color, what you can do is just add enough layers of gesso to completely cover it so it's opaque. Okay, I'm not going to worry about it because I'm putting paper on top of that as well. What a mess. My goodness. All right, so let's put that over here. Now, what you can do from here, because we're going to be building layers upon layers upon layers, and that's going to create all that depth. And what I want to do is, I've got the gesso, then I'm going to put on the dictionary paper, then the thin layer of metallic, so the words will come through. What the words don't matter, except if you pull a page out of the dictionary with inappropriate words and if you're giving that away. So maybe take a marker and black out some of the words if they're inappropriate. I'm pretty good here. So what I want to do is I'm going to turn that there. So I like this torn edge here. I don't even mind that line. And I don't want to cover the whole thing, so I'm just going to just tear. And there's paper has a grain. So I'm liking that. Yep. I could even just take it like this, use that. Doesn't matter. I can just use this piece. Doesn't matter, but I'm going to take that. And don't throw these away. So let me just get my heat gun to dry this. Now I've already covered this up so many times, but because, again, for 2021, I'm focusing on beginners to get you guys making stuff. Don't just watch the videos. Use what you have and make stuff. You don't have to go out and spend a ton of money on supplies. But I've shown this a lot of times, and with the heat gun, you can use a hair blower, just kind of hold everything down because of the air force. The force of the air is so high. Lowest setting for the force of the air, and then the lowest setting for heat. My hair blower would just blow everything off the table. So I'm using my heat gun, which has low air pressure. Okay, the force of the air is very low, but the heat is super high because this is an embossing gun. So I start low, put my hand there, and as I lift the gun up, the heat gun up, so my hand doesn't burn. Now I know that sounds masochistic, or sadist. I don't know what the word, you know what I mean, but I'm not intentionally hurting myself, but I'm lifting it up because that's how I'm going to judge the heat, because you want the heat to be warm. Okay? And always keep it moving. The freeway though, just let it air dry. All right, I love that. I love that. Nice and rough. I'm probably going to chop this up even more. So now I'm going to take my matte medium and now I'm not going to take my brush and dip it into that because I've got the gesso on there. Oh, I left my water container in the bathroom. Oopsie. Okay. Oopsie. Oopsie. So let's do that. And now I'll use the same brush. That's another thing that I'm spending a little bit more is to ease up on the number of brushes, because I hate cleaning brushes. Here we go. So I've got my matte medium. You can use glue. You can use decoupage medium, which works just as well. And I'm going to put it on the back side of this. You can paint this ahead of time if you want, but I just want to keep it simple. And let's just pop that in here. Right there. Something like that. And I'm going to go on top. Now by putting the matte medium on top as well, what this is going to do is it's going to seal the paper, the paper to the cardstock, not only underneath, but over top on these edges. And the matte medium also creates some tooth for the metallic paint to stick to. Now you can see as this is starting to get lighter because there's gesso on here, which is fine. Okay, so let's cover that up. We don't need that anymore. And oh, to glue these down, I forgot. I'm going to use my liquid glass. I have, I think, but that much left. I have to go to a new bottle, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to keep that upside down. All right, so I'm going to dry this as well. Now, if you can, let the stuff air dry. That way, if you make a whole bunch at once, you can let them air dry. That way they'll dry properly. I'm using the heat gun to speed everything up. And make sure it is dry, because if gesso gets into it with the metallic paint, well, it's not going to ruin it. I just don't know what it's going to look like. So I'm taking the flat metallics. So this is, I love using this stuff. And rose gold. I don't have a copper. I didn't shake that enough. So I'm just going to mix that with my Grip Tools cotton swab end. When I'm finished using those cotton swabs, I break off the edges because they make perfect little paint sticks. Then I'll just rotate that and then rotate on a paper towel to clean it off, and it's reusable. But I can't use this because there's gesso in it. Well, I could, but I don't want to. Get a clean brush, and I'm just going to paint that over, and I want to make sure that the paper shows through. I want the text paper to be visible. And I wasn't too worried. You're only going to see probably about this much of it here, because we're going to be putting the crackle paste on top. I have a sneeze that's trying to come out. Oh no. All right, so that takes care of that. Now the crackle paste. So you got to follow the directions on here. Dimensional white crackle paste that creates eggshell cracking pattern as it dries. Use alone or through a stencil. Apply with a palette knife, and it's tintable up to 20% with the media fluid acrylics, which are still in a box. I'm not going to worry about that because I'm going to put this on first, and then I'm going to put this on first, and then when it's dry, then I'm going to apply. I'll probably use like a little that. What are these stupid things to get the Jesus, whatever these things are. I'm going to use my finger and just kind of rub that on there. They're not, these ones are not J-cloths. They're kitchen cloth thingamabobbies. Oh, flippin' heck. Ah. Okay, so putting that on there, drying that up. So I like the look of this, and the gesso really diffused that. So that's nice and soft. It's still a little bit shiny, but nowhere near a traditional shiny look. Okay, so the crackle paste. Now I'm going to get my baby wipes. Come on. And I'm going to clean that off. When you're using crackle paste, depending on the brand that you're using, again, please, with everything, make sure you read the directions. The key is not overworking it, because now this one's not too bad because it's thick. But sometimes if you use the thinner stuff, which is like I have crackle paint, which I'm out and I have to try to get some. If you overwork it, then as the cracks are forming, you're still working it, and then you're going to ruin the cracks. Uh-oh. Guess I'm not using that one. Do I have anything else? Oh, nuts. Okay, I'm going to have to find something. I didn't have that dry, the lid on. Ooh, okay, so, well, lesson learned. I'll use the Traditions one. There we go. That's better. Make sure, follow the directions. Yep, same thing. Just going to give it a bit of a stir. And then I'm going to grab it on the back side here. So what I want to do is I want to turn the card and I want to work it upwards, because I want to, oh, I should have used this one. This looks like foliage. So that's what I'm going for. So I'm going to turn this upside down and just grab it on the back side. You want enough to, you're going to get enough coverage on this. And I'm just going to and then when you've got, you know, about halfway, then just go to the edges and just pull, pull, pull. Okay, I still have a little bit of time there. Like that. There you go. That's it. Don't touch it anymore. It's almost maybe 15 seconds or so. And again, and also depending on your environment, depending on how hot it is. Yes, I've got some crack. I just had to take my glasses off to see. I've got some cracks starting on the thinner edges. So I'm going to put that aside. So now this is the actual Traditions crackle paste, and it's from DecoArt. So they're both, whoops. They're both interchangeable. Maybe I'll use this for the gesso now. I'll have to get that cleaned out. All right, so put that aside, and I don't want that there. There we go. Okay. So now I have to let that dry, which, you know, of course we all love the drying time, right? But while that's drying, what I'll do, I'll continue on with the techniques. Put that up there. And I'll continue on with the techniques to show you. I want to try to make this not just about making something pretty, but why I'm doing it. Oh, I think I better shake that a little bit more. Oh my goodness. No, didn't shake it enough. I just don't have the strength anymore to shake the psh out of the stuff. Now, if Ava and Wolf are watching, don't imitate Grandma. So I'm going to take a dry brush. I'm going to load that, and I have a baby wipe handy, damp baby wipe. And I'm just going to, so this is the same thing as what I just did without the text paper. And this is actually copper, the Dazzling Metallics copper on here instead. But I'm just going to take the paint. Yeah, that's okay. I can take the cloth and just wipe that down. And see what it does? It just gives it just a light tint. Just a light tint. And versus, you know, and that's up to you if you want it to be stronger or if you want it to be, you know, much more subtle. It's completely up to you. I kind of like the subtle look. So I can put it on and then wipe it off. And you can do this as many times as you want. And what I'm doing here is I'm pushing this into the cracks as well. And it's also not sticking to the metallic paint. I want there to be enough of a contrast with the dragonfly, so you don't want it to be too dark. And you may be asking why I changed my mind going from the copper metallic to the flat. I find that the copper is nice. It's too shiny in the background. But this the crackle technique that I did, you know, bringing it up this way, I love the composition. The unfortunate thing is that I didn't replicate it the same way. You can't, once you've got something really well done, yeah, it's hard to replicate, especially when it's something that you can't predict what's going to happen. I had the perfect temperature for the heat. The cracks came out perfect. There we go. Now I can turn this around and just bring that a little bit more towards me and do touch, push, lift, which is going to keep it light on the edges. Like that. It's going to create a little bit of a contrast. Get off me. Right there. So that's to be a little bit stronger. And if you don't have metallics, no big deal. Just use green paint. And if you don't have a green paint, take a yellow and a blue. And we all know what happens. You're going to get different types of greens depending on the blue and the yellow. So I've got videos on my Facebook page and on artplace.ca and in the YouTube channel on how to get various greens. So you can look those up. There we go. Alrighty. So I'm going to dry that. Now this particular one, I'm going to dry fit it. I'm not going to actually glue this down because I'm going to put it on. I'm going to finish it up, put it on, and then just put this stuff here. And basically you'll be able to see what it looks like. But it's this one here. I have to wait. Now, we have any cracks? Yeah, but this looks like it's going to take, probably a good day for the cracks to appear. So I'll just show that at the very end. Okay, so we've got that done. So everything's the same except the dictionary paper. Now what you can do with this is also finish up the edges. And I'm not going to actually glue the pieces down on here. Another reason why is because this paper is just way too flimsy. This was just for demonstration. And you don't have to do this if you don't want to. But yeah, see, the paper is just bending. You can also use scissors. If you have decorative scissors, you can use that too. Now to show you how to finish the outside edge, you can make this any color you want. A speck of black and a speck of phthalo blue. Whoops, that's too much of a speck. And now these ones here, okay, so if you're using the Traditions or the Media Fluid acrylics, the actual properties are on the back. So this is semi-transparent, and it's PP15, so it's a blue that leans towards green. The carbon black is actually opaque, and that's the reason why I'm using black. If you want to create a chromatic black, which is black made with color, if you want to do a chromatic black, but you want it to be more transparent, use burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, and that'll be a little bit more transparent. I wanted it to be opaque. See, it looks black, but when you scrape it back, see, there's the color there. And can anyone wonder why I chose something that was more on the blue side? Okay. Can anyone figure that out? Like I'm waiting for you to answer me. Come on, just getting some scrap paper there. Go. So that's the color. Why did I choose something that was a bit more blue? Now all I'm going to do is just go on like this. And the reason why I tore the edge of the cosmetic sponge is that as I'm doing this, some parts are going to go over the paper and some parts are not. See? Let's see where it is. Let's try and get it so you can see it like that. See? It creates a rough, and if I did this, it creates a perfect edge, and that's not what I'm going for. So can anyone tell me why I chose to edge this with more of a blue? Blue-black. It's a bit too blue, actually, to be honest with you. I'm going to add a bit more black to it. Oh! So 2 specks of black to 1 speck of phthalo blue. Phthalo blue is super powerful, and what happens every time I use phthalo blue? Somehow, I get it all over me. The phthalo colors. Always happens. There we go. That's better. Perfect. This is so much easier. There we go. Creates a nice edge on that. And if you want to, if you had, if this wasn't dark enough, you know what I'm going to do? Since this is the actual piece that I'm going to be finishing, let's see what happens. I'm going to take this cosmetic sponge. I'm going to wipe the excess. Oh, look at that. Oh. Baby wipe. Oops. Pulled up way too many there. Let's diffuse that. Oh, I love that. Now, I should have waited for the edge to dry, but I think it'll be okay. Because we're using paint, this is going to be permanent. If you were using distress inks, those aren't permanent. So you got to be careful when you want to manipulate it. I love that. Oh my God, look at that. You know what I see? I see a dragon. There's his face. There's his eye. There's his, or phoenix. And there's his wings. But this here, this looks like a coral from the ocean. I'm just going to pad that. Can't wipe it because it's damp, so I'm just going to pad that. What I'm doing here is I'm creating some good contrast for that. Again, you don't have to do this. I just want to see what would happen by using that blue because I really like it. And if I use this little thing here, push that into the cracks. And I can use a baby wipe if I want to make it a little bit lighter. I'm going to wipe out some of the metallic. So it takes the blue off the metallic. There we go. Go back and just finish the edge again. So there's something that you can try. Oopsie. There's something that you can try. And the edge, you can make it as dark as you want. It's completely up to you how dark that you want it. Whoopsie. I'm going too fast. Okay, I like that. Just going to do circle, circle, circle in the corners now, which will create that dark finish. Not going to do too much at the top. There we go. And then, hypothetically, if this was the piece I was working on, I could put that there, and then I can put that there. And I could glue that down with the liquid glass. Could use regular matte medium on this. This has a bit of a shiny edge to it, so I could take a little bit of sandpaper and rough that up. And just use matte medium, or I prefer using the liquid glass as a glue. Put that there, and then fill this up with, I could either fill this up with modeling paste, because that's going to use up a lot of liquid glass. Fill it up with modeling paste so it's flat, and then use a liquid glass to glue that down, or just use the liquid glass right here on this and put it down like that. Now the other thing you can do is these quotes that you've got, if you're using these quotes or on paper, you can also finish up the edges of these. You can make these a little bit darker like that. Or leave them raw, completely up to you. Take a baby wipe and just go over the front. Get off me. There. So, very simple way just to focus, create your focal point with one metal piece, and then have all the other mixed media stuff around everything else. All right, so I just want to show you something. Now, I've got all these pieces here just to give you an idea of how, so with, you guys, I do all these book of background things, and the new series, I'm making them, I'm basically doing them this way. So if you're wondering how to use the book of backgrounds, is you take your metal piece and just put it on and look at your pieces, and as you go through, you'll find something that, oh, that is cool. You'll find something that inspires you. What I really liked, I liked the gold. The gold was nice, but you can, just flip through and to find a background that inspires you, and then you can, oh, I like that too. And then you can use, this is nice too, and you can then pull that background off and use it. And because I hole punched everything, I love eyelets for everything. I would just put an eyelet in there as part of the embellishment. Okay, so this is how you can use the book of backgrounds to jumpstart a piece. Well, that's nice with the copper beads. And these are all technique pieces that I did. These are not appropriate. These are all techniques. No, I gotta figure out how I did these. These were a bunch of experiments that I did. Oh, that's nice too. There you go. So that's what you can do too if you want to, if you're not sure where to start, go to the book of backgrounds, pull and take your pieces and lay something out, because it's as you're making the backgrounds, like this one here, I absolutely loved the direction of this stuff. I wouldn't be able to replicate it. There's no way I would be able to replicate it. So I've got this, and although I've got the text behind it, and when I put this on here, it'll look really pretty, but it's not going to have the movement that this one does. And the other thing I want to cover off, if let's say the metal piece, your focal point, whether you use a flower, dragonfly metal, whatever, let's say when you put it on, and let's pretend that this was also blue and there wasn't much contrast between these two. Let's say the colors were too close together and you've already done that. What you can do is take your baby wipe and then try to wipe back as much as you can. Now, ideally, see, I can do this because it hasn't fully dried yet. If it hasn't dried, it'll come off. Oh, the camera's probably shaking. Push as hard as you can You have to make sure that this is completely dry. And then, oh goodness. And then you can start again. If it has dried and it's not coming up, then what to do is just maybe go over with a thin layer of gesso and then another layer of paint. Now the thing with me pushing that hard is the cracks have even gotten darker, which is absolutely gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And one of the reasons why that it's not it hasn't dried and become permanent on it, because the metallic paint, think of it, is slick, and the crackle paint is smooth as well. Now what you can do with that is when you have something that you really like and you don't want to have any more color going in there, apply a layer of matte medium to seal it. And then any color you put on top is not going to go inside the cracks. Holy smokes, how many skill techniques have I shown in this? Oh, layering, edging, 4, 5? Well, might have to watch the video a few times. Sorry. My initial thing was just to show how to make a simple design with a mixed media piece to answer that question, but oh well. So there you go. So now you also now know how to change up the color if there's not enough contrast, not enough of value change with your focal point. And if you can't take the paint off, apply another layer of thin gesso to change the color. And then you can put matte medium on there, and then you can put paint on top to completely change the whole piece. So, and there's that brush. I kind of like it with the white, with a bit of a tint. But so there's another way that you can do it. You can also take the card this way. So there's a lot of contrast. You can do that as well. Completely up to you. You just play with the pieces, and whatever feels right to you, do that. Alrighty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this. I'm not going to glue these down, but when this one is ready, yeah, the cracks, oh, you probably can't see. The cracks are starting right up in here. When that piece is done, I'm going to replicate the same steps as I did here, put the whole thing together, but I want to show how to glue these down, and that will be the piece that I work on because I still have to create the edging on these. Alrighty, so with the way this is going, I'll probably come back probably tomorrow to finish this off. So it's been about a day and it cracked everywhere, except it didn't crack here. It was a little bit thick. If I leave it for a little bit longer, it might crack, but I'm not going to worry because I'm going to be putting that there. So what I did in the meantime, I took some DecoArt modeling paste and I filled in the dragonfly. Where's my palette knife? And that'll have, or I won't waste so much liquid glass and then let that dry. I changed up how I'm going to stain this. So I finally found all my DecoArt Media Fluid acrylic paints. I've got transparent red iron oxide, raw umber, and phthalo blue. So I'm going to take my little brush and I'm going to edge the sides with the raw umber and phthalo blue, but I want to try with the transparent red iron oxide first. And I'm using a little bristle brush to really push the paint inside the cracks. And this paint is great for this because it's thinner in consistency. Now, if you want the cracks you want the extra protection on the cracks, what you want to do is apply a layer of sealer on top of these because they crack. It's a product that cracks. There we go. So you don't need much. I could have just taken the paint right out of the tube or the bottle. And then take a little kitchen cloth. And just wipe that back. Very, very simple. I like the depth of that, you know that? I like the depth. So I'm going to go right over the metallic paint, the matte metallic. I'm really liking the depth of that. Transparent red iron oxide has got to be my favorite vintage color. Let's put a little bit more in there. Might as well, we've got it out, right? Yeah. So it's this still remains metallic. Just has that little bit of richness to it. So there we go, DecoArt. You got to make a transparent red iron oxide metallic paint. Oh wait, I think they stopped making transparent red iron oxide. Dang. Yeah. Not happy with that one, but that's okay because I already figured out a recipe that you can make something that looks similar. There we go. Yeah, I like that. Instead of I like it better than the blue. Mind you, the blue is fine. I just like the vintage look a little bit better. So now we have to edge this. So I'm going to take same dirty brush, just take the raw umber. More with the raw umber. Mix that up and let's get a little bit of transparent red iron oxide in there. There we go. Oh, I like that. And the color we end up with slightly on the green side. And let's just get one layer of this on there. And then I'll go straight into raw umber. Yeah, I like that. Look at that nice roughness there. I'm going to grab a little bit of more of the transparent red iron oxide. There we go. So this gives it a bit of richness, contains everything. Okay, let me wipe off the excess. And now just a transparent red iron oxide going out, in, outward, sorry, inside out. And I'm just going to add a little bit of depth to the inside edges. Now the beauty of this, it's going to be permanent. If you use distress inks, now unless they've come up with a new product, unless you use distress inks, they're water soluble. Nothing wrong with that. It's just I prefer my stuff to be permanent. But if I think about it, I've got a funny feeling they have come out with something that's more permanent. I'm pretty sure. As long as you work everything, oh darn, that's. I should say, as long as you work everything while it's wet, you'll be fine. There we are. Let me just get a paper towel. Now I just want to dry that. How vintage is that? I like that. Let's get a little bit more in the corner here. Our little sign is going to be there. Our little quote's going to be there. So I'm thinking. Just with the brush, just to get the pieces of torn paper there. And get you out of the way. Let's get this fastened on. just going to put a little bit here. Is that actually going to touch? Yeah, these pieces here. The antenna is not going to touch. This one will, though. This is really heavy. And then what to do now is to put a book on top just to hold it flat against the card. I was tempted to take some pliers and bend this down because this kind of sticks up. It doesn't even touch the paper. Problem with that is that I don't know how this was made, so I could likely snap it off. And if I knew the actual components of the metal, I'm pretty sure it's just brass or something, I could solder it back on, but no. Let's not muck around with that. There we go. So a very, very simple piece of artwork featuring one metal component, but there's an awful lot of layers with this just to create that extra depth. We've got dictionary paper in there, then we've got the layer of the metallics, then we've got the layer of the crackle paste, then we've got another layer of paint, and then we've got the focal point, and then we've got our little quote. I would change one thing on this if I could, and I actually was just too lazy to go look for it. The quote to be smaller. This is awfully overpowering, and now that I think about it, something that would have been this size would have been better. Actually, I wonder if I have something. Be brave. That's too cliche. Oh! Oh, use your wings. Oh, I like that. Oh, darn. Now I gotta... Ah! Eh. Okay, let me. I like that. Use your wings. Why didn't I see that before? I'm just going to paint the edges. I should have did a dry fit first, and I did a dry fit a few times, but not when everything was assembled. Yeah, so just keep your metal embellishments simple. The key when you're using metal embellishments, you have to make sure that your substrate, your actual piece here, is strong. So if you have a hobby with a workshop, or maybe you have a workshop, like I have my own workshop, and you've got like a bandsaw, go to, if it's safe to do so in the middle of the pandemic, or order it online. Order some masonite, and you can cut your own pieces, and the masonite is actually not as strong as this because this is cardboard, but it's hard, and you can build up so much. You can build that up so much because it's wood. I'm going to have to put that flat because this is all bent. But there we go. That is so much better. Can I? On an angle? Okay, so let me know. Straight across or on an angle. That's going to be your question for... That's going to be your question. Let me just fill that in. Nice. It'll be nice and shiny. It'll look wet. So on an angle or straight across. Let me know what your preference is. All right, you guys, so I'm going to let you go. So if you're watching this from YouTube, click the description in the link below and let me know if you've had trouble creating art with metal embellishments. or post pictures of metal pieces that you have done. And I know one specific lady who makes the most amazing metal work, and I'm hoping she's going to post a picture. She's in our Facebook group, so hopefully she's going to post pictures of some of her recent metal work. And if you're watching this from Facebook or the group, yay, post your pictures and let me know what you've done with these metal pieces, if you made them for yourself, if you've displayed them, or if you've given them away, which is always a nice thing to do, especially during the pandemic. And if you have any, and let me know if you do use metal embellishments. I would say only if you've bought them from Amazon, because that's a universal thing for all of us. Let me know what the specific product is that you've bought on Amazon, and if I'm able to get it on Amazon.ca, I'd like to pick it up, because Joe needs to buy me some stuff for a belated Christmas present, because I returned everything. Not his fault. I bought the stuff. He told me just get what you want. I bought it, and the audio equipment didn't work, so I just sent it back. So decided I'm going to focus on artsy stuff, but stuff that you guys would like to see me use. Alrighty, so until I can get that mouthful out and see you next time, stay inspired.